It's Saturday. You know what that means. No, it's not AEW Collision, but it could be. We are Professional Wrestling, the podcast, hosted Jonathan A. Hacohen, author of The Bible 3.0, The Six Commandments of the Chosen Life, talking about manifestation, setting goals, and how to live your chosen life and set it up for you. We got back a guy who is living his chosen life, the chosen life. It looks like it's Ric Flair because he's draped in gold since we last saw him. The one and only Van Landen. Van, welcome back to Professional Wrestling.
Hey, I'm so happy to be back. And look, last time I was here, I didn't have as much luggage. Here I have the Barrie Wrestling Three Pistols title, the Great Canadian Wrestling Ontario Independent Championship. I've been busy, but no matter how busy I am, I'm always coming back to Professional Wrestling Podcast.
You are, buddy. We appreciate you because we're bros and kind of pros. And so I got to tell you, I've been around wrestling quite a bit of years. I was mentioned off air. This looks like the Ric Flair NWA belt circa 1978. It's pretty old school. I love that. Harley Race, in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
But this belt over here, buddy, this GCW belt, that's a thing of beauty. I got to say, the colors, everything, they went all out on this one.
They must have. Hey, that's why I fight so hard to keep it. I've defended it now 5 or 6 times, going into this weekend to defend it some more. Hey, it's what I fight for.
Is this the belt that was originally awarded when you won the match, or did they have a ceremony after the fact, a week or two later, and Triple H came out and unveiled it out of a velvet box? How did that go down?
No podium display for me, unfortunately. Nope, this one, old Steve Brown up in Port Perry, the Bone Crusher. Hey, he thought he had my number. He couldn't handle the onslaught that is Van Landen, and brought that one home with me. It was a good one.
So, when you're driving in your car, do you have each belt like on one arm with the seatbelt over you, or how does one manage to walk around with so much gold? Do you have like special carrying cases for each of them? What's the game plan?
These beauties ride shotgun. So unless I'm traveling, unless I got some other wrestlers in the carload, these are shotgun with me. And I'll tell you what, I've had some comments in the drive-thru, whether it's Tim Hortons or, the late night food run after the show. They said, hey, what are those medals you got in your front seat there? And I say, hey, don't worry about it. It's just my championship belts. Yeah, they call them medals.
Medals.
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie American Psycho back in the day?
I haven't.
You haven't. So it was about this guy, and he was obviously, you can tell from the title of it. But one of the funny things was he was very particular about his stuff. So he's wearing his watch, and when he, in the middle of the night, he looks at his partner. She comes around to hug him. He tells her, don't touch the watch. So I imagine, don't touch the belts.
Hey, I live by that rule. I like that.
And you're playing in the background here as we're talking. You recall that match over there?
This one here, it's myself, my HPW tag team partner, Shane Silvers, together, Young and Reckless. And we brought on our third partner, Ace Cannon, who is somebody who I respect so much. And we're taking on the Careless Dynasty, Josh Sin, Christopher Clarence, and Marcus Gold in 3-way action from, I believe, HPW Wreck the Halls 2021, I would say, is the year on this one. Maybe 22. I don't even know what day it is today.
I don't even know why they call them Careless Dynasty. Why don't they call them Awful Dynasty? Like, seriously, they're the only people that like themselves. Everybody else who comes into contact with them literally despises them. They're rude on social media. They're rude in person. I don't think they're that talented, quite frankly. So what's the deal with Careless Dynasty?
To me, they're the clueless dynasty. And Christopher Clarence, Marcus Gold, Josh Sin, and all your other members, Junior Power, Tantrum. You could add 100 more guys. You will still be the clueless dynasty to me.
The one guy I'm saying, Junior Power, I think he's going to wake up at some point. And when he comes to the Jedi side and gets away from them, I think Junior, I still hold hope that you're going to break away and come to greatness and not let them sink you down. But we'll see.
Hey, we'll see.
We'll see how that goes. Now, you and I get together, the first thing that's going to be talked about is AEW. It's always about AEW. So first and foremost, we talked about in the previous episode the whole idea about Vince McMahon starting his own wrestling federation and then kind of bonding and growing together with AEW, perhaps maybe coming out. Well, the media is a buzz right now all over the internet, but it's not about Vince, but it is a McMahon. Totally forgot about him because we talk about Stephanie, right? We talk about Triple H. We talk about Vince. Shane O'Mac hasn't disappeared yet. Here comes the money. So we had a WCW takeover storyline. Well, how about a non-storyline? And Shane O'Mac says, you know what? I'm not the successor to the throne. I'm not going to join Vince and his new federation. Tony Khan, bring me the money. Shane O'Mac is here. That might be pretty freaking cool, actually.
I really like that. You said it there. Here comes the money. And I think Tony Khan would definitely see the potential in a deal with Shane McMahon. We talk about, obviously, what happened with Vince and how he's gone and all the shares being sold off. And now Triple H is in charge. The Rock has got control. But the next of kin, Shane O'Mac, nowhere to be seen. So I agree with you. I think if Tony Khan were to make something happen with the whole here comes the money, I think that would be great for AEW.
How about we add a little bit more intrigue? Are you ready? Because I got a storyline for you.
Let me hear it.
So this is how it's going to go, because we're pushing the whole elite thing, right? With the EVPs, right? And what will happen is there's a power struggle because you know that Tony Khan's trying to wrestle back his control away from them. And he brought on a jobber EVP to replace Kenny Omega, right? What's his name again? One of the jobberinos, anyways. I'm trying to think of the name of it. That's how much the guy means to me.
Yeah.
Matt something, Steve something, I don't know, whatever. But we got a little bit of power struggle going here, but we know the EVPs are going strong. At some point, we're going to have Tony Khan trying to get the upper hand. EVPs come out and we say, well, it's not up to you, Tony, because somebody has purchased either minority or controlling interest in AEW from your dad, Sean. And now what's going to happen is we are now in charge because we actually own AEW. Do a takeover. Shane O'Mac walks out and he has joined the EVPs in taking over AEW. I'm watching that.
Whoa. You'd say, I think back to when Hogan dropped the leg on Macho and the New World Order was formed.
New World Order.
You put a McMahon under AEW, that is a catalyst for that same buzz, that same energy that came out of Bash at the Beach 96. That is where moments are made. I would love that to happen.
I wonder if Shane McMahon owns his own name, or does WWE still own the right to his name? He may, even though that's his legal name, he may not be able to use his name in AEW. That'd be kind of funny, actually. But man, a McMahon in AEW, sign me up all day. We can see the formula. Clearly, Tony Khan is sitting there with the Young Bucks watching old WCW, New World Order. There was a New World Order pay-per-view, seeing how the brands split with the white and red. They are clearly, they're following the script with the EVPs and the Elite. The Elite are clearly the new NWO. I'm loving it. Don't get me wrong. I'm loving it, but there's like that one thing. Remember how the $1 Million Man was the secret benefactor of the NWO?
Oh, yeah.
Shane McMahon comes in. I got my inheritance early. I cashed out from that other place, and they're running it into the ground. And WWE doesn't deserve me anymore, but wrestling needs a real McMahon. Shane O'Mac is here.
I love that. Wrestling needs a real McMahon. That's the line right there, I think, is key. Hey, I would love to see him come in, play that suit role for the Elite as they're going to be in ring. We don't need Shane in the ring. He tore his quad the last time he got in the ring. Yeah, none of that. But wearing a suit, conducting the business for the Elite, I'm all in on that.
If I'm a predictor, which I am, if that does happen, I'm going to see that down the road, they're going to have the same issue as the NWO. They're going to get too popular. It's going to be all about the Elite at that point. Shane O'Mac's going to go over really well. At some point, they're going to be the faces. That's a good problem to have. That's not a bad issue whatsoever. But imagine a world where you have Triple H running the Triple H era in WWE. You have Shane O'Mac over in AEW, and Vince starts up his own federation in 2025. In your opinion, Van Landen, good for wrestling or bad for wrestling? Because I'm telling you, I think 3 strong plus TNA and what they're doing, New Japan, This is only good for professional wrestling.
Only good. Only good. The more places to work, the better for everybody. The more people can watch, the more wrestlers can work, the more everybody can enjoy professional wrestling. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, is enjoying it. And having all those different options available would be huge. Would be huge.
Are you a Busted Open fan? You listen to their podcast?
I dabble from time to time.
Because I'm over, they have this whole campaign right now that should be going 24/7, have their own channel. I agree. Wrestling needs its own thing on XM Sirius. Let's do it up. All good. We're happy to join them anytime if they want us to be part of their show and we can share our views on this, certainly. And I notice as they have different guests, not as much bad-mouthing Vince anymore. Some of them come back and say, hey, Vince was a very good guy to work with. Vince really took care of me. I feel like people are planting seeds because they realize the Vince train is going to leave the station at some point. And you know what? Let's jump on board.
Oh, boy. Well, you even look back in the history of times and you look at the Hart family and how divided they were because of Vince McMahon. And the reason being for Vince always had the money in wrestling. And they were always chasing that next run or chasing the paycheck in wrestling. And hey, the last person you want to badmouth is the overseer of wrestling, the man who has it all, and that was Vince.
I'm sending to you telepathically. I see Vince's first champion. Which name? Who's Vince gonna pull out of his hat? He's got to go for the biggest star here.
Who's available? Are we talking?
We believe he's available, and we know who Vince loves. He loves his meaty guys. Who's the biggest name in WWE that right now isn't there, should have been there, got caught up in the Vince happenings?
The Beast Incarnate.
You got it. Brock Lesnar. You bring Brock Lesnar into Vince's federation, we got something going. Everybody will turn up the eyeballs for him. Vince is going to have to overpay for him, certainly, but I don't think WWE is opening up their doors right now. AEW, he's not going to go there. It's just not going to be a fit. Can't see him turning into a mirror over there. He's not going to go back to UFC. Brock, boom. That's the way it's going to go down.
That's a great choice because Brock's a draw wherever he goes, whether it was UFC 200, whether it's WrestleMania, whether it's SummerSlam. Brock is the draw. He's a freak athlete for a reason. People tune in to see him. That's a great choice.
Is there a world, though, that Shane O'Mac says, you know what? Yeah, thank you, but no thank you. You know what? This sounds intriguing, but I'm good sitting at home collecting if I have a paycheck or my inheritance or whatever. Or do you think Shane O'Mac, if you're thinking about what we've seen from the guy in the past, you think he's itching? Because I don't think he has the best taste in his mouth how things ended off.
Definitely not the best taste in his mouth. You never want to finish your last match on a torn quad in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania, having Snoop Dogg finish the match for you. I mean, that's a crazy sentence just saying that. Shane, we saw the itch when he came back and jumped off Hell in a Cell onto The Undertaker. We've seen what he is crazy capable of. He survived a helicopter crash. Shane has the itch. He has wrestling in his blood. It runs through him. There is an itch. And whether or not he chooses to scratch it or not, I think only time will tell. But there is an itch.
It's got to be killing Shane O'Mac. The fact that he was the one who came to Vince and said, buy up this thing called UFC. Trust me on it. Vince didn't listen to him. Now UFC is the owner of WWE. He's got to have sleepless nights over that.
Oh, yeah. He saw what UFC had and the potential. I mean, early WWF was using guys like Dan the Beast Severn and Ken Shamrock. They knew. And he didn't pull the trigger. I just wish that... I wish to see the timeline where WWE owned UFC. That would be interesting.
Any risk to AEW? Now, let's assume, okay, number one, would Shane come along as just a talent, a highly paid talent, or is he going to have some sort of ownership in there? That's going to change factors. I'm going to assume that AEW is smart enough to say, okay, you're going to come in, we're going to give you a 5%, 10% stake. The second we're not happy with you, we buy you out, no questions asked, so he gets no say whatsoever. I assume if Shane O'Mac makes this happen and they really are intrigued with this, I would say, you know what? Put some skin into the game. Not the worst idea on the planet.
Not the worst idea. I like that. I think he would. I think there's really no risk for him to try and to stir the pot. And he's got friends there: Chris Jericho, Dustin Rhodes, people that he goes way back with, Paul White. And hey, it's not like he would be a stranger in a locker room. I could see that happening.
But is Tony Khan smart enough to understand the value of Shane McMahon in his enterprise, number one, period, without thinking, oh, Vince is going to be pulling the strings in the background? And number two, if he is comfortable enough to bring him with his ego, would he allow Shane to have any kind of ownership stake in it at all? That's a tough one, because I feel at the end of the day, Tony likes to surround himself with a lot of yes men and yes women. But at some point, you have to kind of step back a little bit and let the professionals do their jobs and help you along. I'm kind of thinking at this point, like, AEW is going to reach a point, they are going to reach a ceiling. I hate to say it, and I love AEW, but you want to take it to the next level. You have glimpses of this, but we're going to have to do something a little different. Vince and Shane are the only needle movers for me in letting Tony go to the next level.
Needle movers is the key word there. That's something that's going to swing the ratings. That's something that's going to bring the eyes to AEW in the mainstream. That's going to be the catalyst for success, I would say.
Well, they have not been afraid to kayfabe it, Tony with the neck brace after getting injured from the Elite in the NFL draft. So we've seen his dad, Shad, coming in all concerned. Well, what about if we bring, the other idea I had, Shad comes out to Tony and says, Tony, listen, because the Elite, having this fight with Tony and trying to take over AEW, right? The only person who can overstep on Tony is Shad, right? Shad comes to protect Tony, and then Shad pushes Tony down and says, listen, if my birth son can't do it, I'm going to bring out my adopted son who I know can get the job done. And Shad turns on Tony and brings out Shane McMahon by Shad's orders. That would be interesting too.
It reminds me of the days of Bischoff and McMahon going head to head in the sort of early 2000s on Monday Night Raw, when they were sort of power struggling against each other, and even Stephanie and Bischoff as well. And that's the face of WCW now being the on-screen character, the antagonist, controlling and being the puppet master. If Shane came over and took the book from Tony Khan, per se, all due to Shad Khan, and saying, this is now my chosen son because you couldn't do it, boy, what a storyline that would be.
If you actually put Shane McMahon to book the matches in AEW and actually had the control and brought in the people that he's comfortable with, we're going to go through the roof here. I love Tony. I like Tony's input, but Tony running the show as the booker versus Shane doing it, my money's on Shane.
Hey, I'm all in on seeing Shane McMahon come to AEW and shake things up.
Because when I reflect back on this, because again, I'm seeing traces of the NWO, WCW. If I had to say my one heartbreaking moment, what I really think about where Vince McMahon went wrong because of his ego, it was the fact that he had brands. He had WCW, right? He had Extreme Wrestling, right? At ECW. And what did he do with those? He just flushed them down the toilet just to prove a point that he can. If you actually kept WCW and you kept ECW going as separate brands, like you have in Canada, Rogers and Fido, they are owned by the same company, but they're run as separate brands. I would have had more TV time, more exposure, could have run them as the unique entities they were, not make it WWE-ish. Would have been so much better. We would have been in a much better place today. And you just took something that had a good formula and you just flushed it down the toilet. So I'm not saying AEW is going to go away and it's going to be the Elite, and don't saturate the Elite and make that die off. But we got something here that does smell enough NWO-ish that I think we can kind of branch this off and we can do some things with it if we do it right.
I'm in on that. Absolutely. You're exactly right. The brand recognition wasn't there back then. They could have had wrestling every night of the week and it could have been a different, 3 letters. I think AEW, they could pull something off here.
I mean, some of my most hated wrestlers through AEW, I could not stand the Elite, to be honest, when they were faces. I couldn't stand Jack Perry when he was Jungle Boy, you know? Now, having them as EVPs, as Matthew and Nicholas, having the scapegoat, I get it. I get it. I think it's working. I think that it's a great freaking gimmick. They got their Reebok pump shoes, you know? I can't get enough of this stuff. And yet, I'm reading on social media, a lot of people are hating on them. Is it because they're bringing out actual emotions out of people, or do people generally not like the Elite EVP thing? What's your take on it?
I think it's that genuine emotion. This is real heat. This isn't, to quote, X-Pac go away heat. That doesn't exist. No, this is real heat. The Elite, and specifically the Young Bucks, have always been masterminds at pushing the buttons of the fans that are the most vocal. Hey, you guys aren't going to stop talking about CM Punk? Okay, let's bring in the scapegoat because he is the guy. You guys are going to hate us now? Okay, well, we are EVPs and we're in control. So what we say goes. Okada turning off the rap for the Acclaimed? Yeah, they're in control. And that's exactly what the Young Bucks have always been good at, is being sort of on the pulse when it comes to whether good or bad, whatever it is that people are talking about, they're going to dive right in on it.
I love how Okada, people call him the Asian Cody Rhodes. It's kind of true with the suits and stuff. It's kind of Cody Rhodes-ish. Like they're trying to, it's almost like mocking Cody Rhodes.
Oh, I mean, that would be a dream match for me to see, especially in both of their modern incarnations. Cody WWE champion, Okada where he's at now. Of course, he's been everywhere. I would love to see those two one-on-one. I do see the similarities, though.
So as we're finishing today's episode, I got to ask you, Van Landa, as an AW fan like myself,
Okay.
are we feeling overall good where AW is at going into the summer and the fall? Are we kind of stagnating? When you're turning in week to week, how is your feeling about the shows, how things are going?
I think the injuries are definitely playing a factor. The injuries are something that sucks right now about a lot of the top stars. I think the wheels are spinning with these storylines, but we're on the road to, obviously, Forbidden Door as the time we're recording, but we're on the road to All In specifically in September. All In, All Out, London, those are the two big ones. And I think we are going to start to see things really heat up, getting closer and closer to that.
We got Ospreay going, MJF is back, Swerve's the champ. I'm loving my life turning in every Wednesday, Saturday, and if and when where Rampage is. So that's our AW talk for today. That's professional wrestler Van Landen, Jonathan A. Hacohen. We'll come back next week, and we got some big WWE news that we got to cover because we got a new faction, and you know I love me some faction talk. Got some Six talk. This is Professional Wrestling, the podcast.